Afternoon, everyone. We are welcome to our virtual presentation of a virtual seminar in our Center of Excellence in Migration and Global Studies of the National Open University of Nigeria. Today, we have another interesting presentation, and the presenter is already with us, and I'm going to go straight to introduce him. The presenter for today is Dr. Osayeme Imagbe. He is a Catholic priest and holds his Bachelor's of Arts from Ibadan, University of Ibadan, Bachelor of Theology from Rome, Master's and PhD, all in theology from Fordham University, the Jesuit University of New York. He's a trained academic and administrator, an expert in educational administration and supervision. He has authored a number of articles and books at local, national, and international levels. His major area of research interests are educational leadership, educational administration, educational supervision, and educational policy. He's a lecturer in the Department of Educational Foundations and Management at Ambrose Ali University, Ekpoma, Edo State. His topic for presentation this morning is Migration of Persons, Role of Leadership and Leadership Education. So we are going to listen to our presenter. The first slide is about the role of leadership and place of leadership education. Please go to the next slide, Mr. Sam. Let's hope that Dr. Magbe is battling with internet. Okay. I hope he will soon be back. Okay. He's showing a beautiful picture here. Migration, trying to give us a concept of migration. The slide says migration, movement of persons from one place to the other with the intention of settling permanently or temporarily. So can we go to the next slide? Helping him out till he comes. Migration is not, trying to position what migration is not. I haven't heard what he says migration is. Any kind of movement, any type of motion, but movement with the specific intention of relocating, setting either for a time or permanently. I think that should be settling either for a time or permanently. So the next slide says migrating. Migrating has natural tendency. No, man has natural tendency to migrate. Migration informed by various reasons, broad categories of reasons. We have forced and voluntary. Can you go to the next slide? The reasons why people migrate is what it's trying to define here. Next slide, please. So now telling us about forced or voluntary. Yeah. There is forced migration, trying to give us some reasons that make people to forcefully migrate. Evasion, conquest, colonization, and forced and or voluntary. So it can be free immigration and emigration. Continue, please. Next slide. I think it should be back now. Let me see. Is it back? Because anywhere I stop, it will continue from there. Let me see. Is it back? Is it back? It's not back. So let me. Okay, he is there. Doctor, I can see you. You are back. Can you kindly show your face and take it from this slide of migration? Because of time, you said you have another meeting.
Oh.
So now I have the
Hello,
preliminary
Doc.
ones.
Good afternoon.
Yes, so please take it. I don't know. I started from the beginning to that slide from this. No. Let's go on. I think the part of defining migration, you've seen those slides. Mr. Sam, please go further so that we can. Yes, we have seen all these ones. You have seen what you say migration is not. The next one, migrating. Maybe you want to start from migrating.
From that slide.
You can start from here. Start from here, please. First of voluntary migration, maybe first of voluntary, the reasons for migrating. Start
or I
from
should
there.
continue from first
Yes.
of voluntary slide.
Yes.
Okay, that's slide number 8.
Okay.
Or slide number 5. Slide number 5.
Okay.
Very good. I apologize for the break in transmission. Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, my profs in the house. Very senior colleagues, and everyone here. I am highly delighted to be here and to speak to this topic. I thank particularly the host, Dr. Gloria Neto. I'm really indebted to her because she's been all encouragement for me to come on this platform. I have been given the privilege to present this topic, and thank God that she has already started. So I will continue from first for voluntary migration. What I'd like to say first is that there is no migration that has no influence, that has no reason. Every migration is informed. Anybody that chooses to migrate from one place to the other and is doing migration, as you have seen in the earlier slide, there must be a reason, there must be a purpose for that migration. And the purpose could be, it could be put under 2 broad categories. The purpose could be broad categories. First, migration could be evasion. Somebody is trying to run away from something that is unpleasant. Could come as a result of conquest. Maybe if people were conquered by another, and then some persons in that community just don't feel comfortable remaining in that community and so choose to move to somewhere else. It could be as a result of colonization, where another country or another community comes to take administrative charge of a given community. And as a result, some persons may just feel that they're no longer comfortable to live in that community that is being colonized. And so they move elsewhere to settle somewhere else. And then there is the bigger one. People could voluntarily immigrate or voluntarily emigrate. Immigration is coming into a given place, and immigration is going out of a given place to another. We move to the next slide. As I said before, I said there is no migration that is uninformed. There is always a reason, there is always a motivation for migration, whether the migration is a private migration or if it is public, if it is personal, there is always a reason. There is always a motivating reason for people to move. Earlier than now, people talk much of migration from rural environments to urban environment. People move from rural settings to urban settings. But today, when people talk about migration, it's more of country to country or region to region in the global space. We'll move to the next slide. Now, rural to urban migration in Nigeria, because we are here in Nigeria, so we should speak specifically about Nigeria. You will see on the on the graph that you have there that there has been a steady upward trend of movement from rural to urban areas in the last over 60 years. I think in Nigeria we'll go to our peak in the year 2016. And it's still there. You see people move from villages now to Lagos, to Abuja, to Port Harcourt, and these places are getting more and more populated, whereas the villages are almost empty. I went to my village on Sunday, and you can imagine what I saw. The streets were almost empty. Whereas if you go to Lagos, at the time we went to my village, you hardly have a place to get your car through. That's just to tell you that there is this influx, there is this continuous migration from rural to urban areas. I will move to the next slide. I hope we are still all with me.
Yes, we are hearing you.
Everybody with me?
Yeah, okay, we are hearing you.
Okay, right. So the next slide, we are now on slide 9. I told you that before now, the emphasis was on rural to urban, but today we talk much more of country to country or region to region, even continent to continent. And I just decided to make reference to the trend of migration between Africa and Europe. And you see that the trend is in favor in terms of migration to Europe. You hardly hear people moving from Europe to Africa, but often you hear that a lot move from Africa to Europe. Even some die on the Mediterranean Sea, trying to go through the illegal means to migrate to Europe. And I just put out some figures there. You see 12% of migrants in the whole world come from Africa today. The whole world come from Africa. That's a huge number. 26% migrants from Africa move to Europe. We're not actually talking about those who go to the United States. So you see that there is a big, massive drift of persons from Africa to Europe. And unfortunately, I would say most of these people that move are the skilled persons. And so Africa is being shortchanged by this migration trend. The next slide. Now, what motivates, I told you that there is no migration that has no motivation. Whether it's immigration or whether it's immigration, there's always a reason. People who migrate do so for a reason and for a purpose. And what are the purpose? So let's look to the next slide. We are now on slide 11 for those who are with me. Slide 11, are we there? I hope I'm still with everybody. Everybody's with me.
Yes, you are. Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay.
So now one of the basic reasons why people migrate is for search of something. People move for always search of something. All right. Either they are searching for greener pasture, or they are searching for a better environment, or they are searching for something. And apart from that, people also migrate, as I told you before, to evade some experiences, uncomfortable experiences. So when people migrate, either they are in need of something or they are trying to evade something. So those are usually the basic reasons why people migrate. Either they are in search of something or they are trying to run away from something. The next slide. Now, remember my topic is on leadership. My area is in leadership, and I'm more comfortable discussing leadership. And how does leadership come in when we talk about migration? And that is, and I want everybody to pay attention to this. I say clearly here that at every point, leadership is indispensable. Everything about a community, everything about growth, everything about development, everything about breakthrough, everything about creating, devolves to leadership. So that is where leadership comes in. Whether people migrate or immigrate or emigrate, whether people migrate in search of something or migrate to evade something, is always a consequence. It's always a reaction to the quality of leadership. We move to the next slide. We are now on slide 13. Now, how does leadership come in? I just put out here that leadership is everything. Whether people migrate for evasion or in search of something, it comes down to leadership function, leadership quality, leadership effects, and leadership effectiveness. 1 and 7. And what does it mean by lead? Leadership provides the barrier. When leadership is higher in quality, the people tend to have better life experience. When it is lower, the life experience is also lower because leadership provides the lead. So when leadership is there, or when the desired or the appropriate or the quality leadership is available, people will tend to immigrate into the environment where that leadership is available. When it's not available, people are likely to move to where the effect of leadership, of qualitative leadership, is available. Now we move to the next slide. Now, the next slide simply says leadership and migration, or leadership in migration. I put there, say leadership is everything, whether the right actionable or functional policies are in place. Yes, I'm on slide 14 right now. Are we together?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. So I said leader and is critical function, or plays critical role, sorry. Where leadership plays critical role is what I just identified here. I said whether the right actionable or functional policies that go to define a people's life is in place is the function of leadership. Whether a nation grows or refuses to grow, whether a nation develops or refuses to develop, is the result of leadership. Whether a nation's growth and development are competitive in a global space is the quality and the type of leadership that exists in that given nation. Whether the quality of life of the people in a given place is higher or not, is the function of leadership. So various scholars have made allusion to this, and I just made reference to some of them. They say leadership defines everything. The next slide. So why does leadership define everything? It's because leadership is the lead, is the barrier. The higher it goes, the better the life becomes. And the lower it comes, the poorer the life becomes. And when the life in a given place is no longer acceptable by people, when the experience of life in a given place is becoming unbearable, people will likely have the reason to migrate. So leadership exercise aligns people with their vision. It inspires and influences them to make it happen despite the challenges and obstacles. So leadership raises people. It raises the community to a higher level. Whether people remain in a given place, whether people feel comfortable in a given place or not, is largely the function of leadership. We just run through this because we already said this. So people migrate. People migrate because they are either trying to avoid the consequences of leadership failure, or they are moving to the effects of leadership success. So when people leave a place, or people come into a place, or people are attracted to a place, it's either they are pursuing or they are trying to experience the quality of the leadership there, or they are running away from the leadership failure there, because every terrible experience in a given nation, in a given place, is always the consequence of the type and the quality of leadership in that place. And that is where leadership comes in. So migration itself, the foundation of migration, whether emigration or immigration, is the type and quality of leadership. We move to the next slide. So how does leadership play a role? So migration is directly and indirectly the function of, as I just said before. So it is in turn the product or effect of the leadership function, type, quality, and engagement, and the role. I just said that we can move on. We are now on slide 19. Hello?
Yes, we are with you.
Okay, very good. So we cannot remove, if we want to control migration, we cannot remove leadership exercise. And we cannot remove the type and the quality of leadership that must be in place. The next slide. Now, remember my topic is on migration of persons, leadership, and leadership education. Now, we cannot talk about quality leadership, effective leadership, without leadership education. But unfortunately, today in Nigeria, a lot of people are saying the positions of leadership without having gone through the school of leadership. Many people are promoted to positions of leadership, but have never, ever been trained in leadership function, be trained in leadership effectiveness, be trained in leadership success, or be trained in leadership failure. That's why I said, if leadership underlies everything, if leadership is everything in migration, and the right leadership attracts immigration, the wrong leadership, if we must address the issue of migration, whether immigration or emigration, we must address the issue of leadership, because leadership serves as the basis. Whether people emigrate or not, it's on the basis of the quality and the type of leadership. And if we must address the issue of leadership, we must address the issue of leadership education. And that is where I make my point. People cannot be put in position of leadership without first of all, taking them through leadership education. Now, what is leadership education? First of all, I say, what is it? What is it not? People tend to confuse leadership with authority. Leadership is not authority. Leadership, to be effective, there must be leadership education. And when it's only by leadership education that we can come to the realization that occupying positions of leadership or being in authority does not necessarily mean being in leadership or exercising leadership. And that is where leadership plays a big leadership education plays a big role. Since leadership is at the basis and constitutes the lead, if we must resolve migration issues, we must resolve leadership issues. And if we must resolve leadership issues, we must engage leadership education. And with leadership education, we'll be able to make the distinction that being in a position of authority does not necessarily mean being in leadership. And so every leader or every person that is in a position of authority must make himself available to leadership education in such a way that he will be able to have understanding of what leadership actually is and what leadership entails, so that in so doing, he will be able to provide dividends of leadership, and as such will reduce immigration and most likely increase immigration. Now to slide 25. So to slide 25. So I said that if you look at slide 25, I said with leadership education or training, leaders or prospective leaders become aware that leadership is largely a function of fruitful and quality process of engagement that entails the positive attraction of influence, ennobling and enhancing pool of inspiration, and quality measure of bridge building. Now, what does that mean simply? It means that leadership is influence. Leadership is inspiration. Leadership is the ability to carry people to a higher level without necessarily coercing them. Now, if you do not have leadership education, you'll not be able to come to this understanding. When people follow you because they have to follow you, you are yet to exercise leadership. But when they follow you because they just want to follow you, not because they have to follow you, then you are exercising leadership. Leadership certainly does not admit of any form of force or coercion. And that is why I say, if we must resolve the issue of migration, we must address the issue of leadership. And if we must address the issue of leadership, we must resort to leadership education. And it's leadership education that the tools of leading effectively are got. And when these tools are got, people will likely migrate to where these tools are used because the effects of leadership will show. And people who wanted to emigrate out of that environment because of poor leadership will be forced to remain. And that is where we recommend, we suggest that every act of leadership engagement must involve the application of leadership education. Now, hello? I hope I'm not lost. Hello?
I'm not lost. We are hearing.
Okay, very good. So now I say what I'm now on slide 31 so that we can run through it. I say, what are the implications of leadership education and leadership? I say, if migration must be controlled or aided, the enthronement of proper and positively impactful leadership, excuse me, cannot be left out in the equation. For this form of leadership to be effectively enthroned and exercised, leadership education cannot be undermined or ignored. If leadership that works and that the people seek is neither present nor felt, migration would most likely occur because people will naturally migrate to where the effects of quality leadership is available. Addressing leadership question will minimize migration and inform greater economic growth and productivity. Now, just to sum it up, what I'm trying to say here is that man naturally has a tendency to migrate. And the reason why they migrate is the result of the failure or the success of leadership. And for people to sustain successful leadership, there must be the involvement of leadership education. And if leadership education is involved, people are likely going to remain rather than migrate because the effects of leadership will be felt. And people who have no reason to move elsewhere would rather have reason to be where they are and enjoy the dividends of leadership. Thank you very much. And I apologize for the several break in transmission. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate your efforts. Despite the break in transmission, at least we are able to get somewhere. Thank you so much.
Thank you
so much. I'm now going to leave the floor open, and I can see the first person intending to speak is Professor Dani.
Okay. I can hear you.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. And,
Prof, good afternoon, sir.
Congratulations to the presenter. I would like to do some cleaning before I make a comment. I think it's advisable for presenters to always invite his or students or colleagues. It will help in participation. With that, I want to thank the TETFON doctoral students that find the time to join us despite the short notice. So when I saw the very few participants, I chose to post on their platform. And a few of them, despite the fact that they having examinations or at the embassy for their visa to be with us in January, joined. We commend them. Having said that, I want to also thank Dr. Ihambe for the learning moments about leadership and the nexus between leadership and the issue of migration discourse. I think the paper will be enhanced if you can look into some concepts, particularly one that I think is more germane in terms of interrogating leadership as core to migration policy and implementation. In 2010, the concept tagged biographical pedagogical discourse was propounded, and it has been used to historicize the role of leaders in all sectors, which is also an area that we want to look into in terms of further development of your paper as an article in a journal or or chapter entry in the book, because you need to dissect leaders in government and non-governmental area. You mention it, but we need more specificity without being too verbose. In other words, something that say, well, you mentioned Nigeria, that you want to look at the government policy or the role of, for instance, you are a father. So Christian leaders or Muslim leaders. Now you can just pick 1, 2, 3 as part of the narrative. So to take on the implications as you highlighted, and then lessons to be learned. Other than that, I think I commend your audacity, and thank you for the presentation. It has been a learning moment as usual. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Prof.
Thank you very much.
Sorry, I cannot. I'm actually in a place that I cannot show my face or speak too loud. My people are still sleeping, and even if I go downstairs, my wife warned me that we're always hearing you people, probably not 4 a.m., 5 a.m., 6.
It's a great
so sorry about
sacrifice. A great sacrifice to even be here this early. We appreciate your comments. If there are no more comments, I will want the presenter to comment or react to what Professor Tijani said. Please, you can unmute yourself and
okay,
yes,
thank you very much, the facilitator or the host. I was trying to say that I am indebted to Professor Tijani because my presence here is largely engineered by him. I didn't know of the existence of this platform until I met him when he came for accreditation exercise in my university. So I appreciate you, Prof. Prof, you can hear me. I am grateful to you for bringing me to this platform and introducing me. All the points you made are noted, and I can tell you that I'm going to work on the paper and ensure that if not all, but almost everything you have mentioned would be incorporated into the paper to make the paper better. I just want to quickly observe that it's not, I sent invitation to my colleagues. The reason they are not here on the platform is that right now we are having examination. And Dr. Aneto will attest to it that even my coming here at this time was by the grace of God, because I was engaged somewhere. I have to pull myself out to be here at this time. So almost everybody's engaged. Even one prof called me from Abraka to inform me that if he finishes on time, he would join the platform, but I've been checking, he's unable to join. So that's the reason why you don't have most of my colleagues. Actually, I made effort to get them informed. That's why you don't have them here. I want to believe that possibly next time, things will be in better shape for every one of us. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much. We really appreciate your efforts to make it. Yesterday, he called me and said, cannot make 12 o'clock. I said, no, it has to be because we are already set. And that we are going to start by 12 and we finish on the dot of 1 o'clock. As it were now, our colleagues who are having, they are monitoring exams and marking exams. That is why the platform is also not full. But then the few of us around are here. So, and thank God this is recorded. No matter how poor it may be because of the internet connectivity, but at least people will be able to listen. So what you have said, gain one or two things from it. We thank you so much, and we thank Professor Tijani and other colleagues that are present. Please, I want to know whether there are more people who want to ask or comment on this presentation before we close this presentation finally. Any other comments, observation? I know the times are not easy for many people. There's a lot of work out there. We thank God for being here today. Thank you. Okay, so as it were, we are going to close it and thank you very much, and let you know that we are expecting you to work on the papers. I mean, the paper you have presented. Putting in the suggestions and comments. At least you heard from Professor Tijani, who gives a very concise and precise corrections all the time. So you put in the corrections and let us have your paper that will be peer reviewed and published in our Journal of International Journal of Migration Studies. So we hope to hear.
Thank you very much. I heard you very well, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
We'll do something.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
So bye-bye.